You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
This is the Daniel Monday Night Community Show on demand through YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing to listen to us through this method. If you'd like to keep up to date with when I add new interviews, then subscribe to this channel. Ian, as always, it's great to see you here in the studio.
Yes, thanks, Daniel, and thanks for inviting me. It's coming up to the launch of the Poppy Appeal, so I just thought I'd update listeners on the origins of it and what exactly we're doing on Sheerness, or on Sheppey, should I say, which brings me on to just my little introduction to say we're not the Sheerness branch anymore. We're now we've rebadged ourselves, renamed ourselves the Isle of Sheppey. There used to be little branches on the island: Eastchurch, Minster, Queenborough and Laysdown, but the last remaining one was Sheerness, with the Queenborough as a sub-branch, and the Queenborough sub-branch closed, and that was left with just the Sheerness branch, which was actually formed in 1921. We've had our standard, and but with much deliberation and having discussed it with the committee members, we decided that perhaps it would be the opportune time now to actually rename the Sheerness branch the Isle of Sheppey to be more all-encompassing on the actual island, and that's what we've done. So we are actually the Isle of Sheppey branch now, as opposed to the Sheerness branch. We still operate out of the Co-op in St George's Road down in Sheerness, and we meet virtually once a month there at the first Monday of the month. But in terms of the Royal British Legion itself, and I'll start to use the word the British Legion because it didn't get royal status until the 1970s. It was formed on the 15th of May 1921, which and bringing together 4 national organisations of ex-servicemen that had established themselves after the First World War. And, we're still in the 1418 commemorations this year, the 100 commemorations, and that will cease in 2018 with the final bit about Passchendaele and the end of the actual Great War. And the main purpose of the Legion was straightforward. It was to care for those who had suffered as a result of service in the armed forces during the war, whether through their own service or through that of a husband, father or son. Because the suffering took many forms, the effect of a war wound on a man's ability to earn a living and support his family, or a war widow's struggle to give her children an education. Even those who had come through the war relatively unscathed struggled with unemployment as a result of the war. Britain's economy plummeted, and in 1921 there were 2 million unemployed people. Over 6 million men had served in the war, and 725,000 never returned. And of those who came back, 1.75 million had suffered some kind of disability, and half of these were permanently disabled. And that's a lot of people if you think about it, because the population then wasn't anywhere near as high as it is today. Added to this figure were the families who depended on those who had gone to war, the wives and children, widows and orphans, as well as the parents who have lost sons in the war. I always remember the Canadian woman who lost 11 sons in the First World War. 11 sons in the First World War. One Canadian woman did. And they often, all of those, contributed to household income. Now, the situation moved Lance Bombardier Tom Lister that he decided that if the government was either unable or unwilling to do anything to improve the lives of ex-servicemen, he would do something about it himself. And this eventually led to the formation of the British Legion. When the Legion's leaders looked around them, they saw the gigantic task of looking after those who had suffered in the recent war, and also the need to prevent further sacrifice by reminding the nation of the human cost of war and to work actively for peace. And by the time of the formation in 1921, the tradition of an annual 2-minute silence in memory of the dead had already been established, and the first ever Poppy Appeal was held in that year, with the first Poppy Day on the 11th of November 1921. So we're not far off now, our own 100th anniversary of the British Legion. And as I say, we were granted, I mentioned earlier on, we were granted royal status in 1971, and we extended our membership to serving members of Her Majesty's Armed Force, as well as ex-service personnel in 1981. Now, anyone can become a member of the Royal British Legion, and we welcome men and women of all ages, whether they've served in the armed forces or not, to continue the work that has begun nearly 100 years ago. So that's really where our history lies, Daniel.
And Ian, I've heard, now listeners might have heard about Live On, but I was hoping you could talk a bit more.
Yeah, Live On is our brand. The Legion was founded, as I said, by veterans after the First World War, and virtually a century on from the start of that conflict, we're still helping today's servicemen and women veterans and their families in almost every aspect of daily life. And as you're probably well aware, we do champion remembrance, safeguarding the memory of those who have given their lives for our freedom through remembrance events and education. Now, the Live On strapline basically was launched with the 2014 Poppy Appeal, and the Legion updated its look and feel, giving it a fresh, modern and hopeful expression that joins up our remembrance and our welfare work. We wanted people to understand that the poppy is not just about remembrance, it's also about providing hope for the armed force communities of all age throughout the years. And Live On is a simple and memorable way to link our twin commitments to the memory of the fallen and the future of the living. And it's also about presenting our charity in a lighter, cleaner way. So Live On describes both equally important parts of our work. As custodian of remembrance, we ensure the memories of those who have fought and sacrificed in the British Armed Forces live on through the generations, and through our welfare work we help the British Armed Forces veterans and their families to live on to a more hopeful future. And basically that's what we do now. It's custodial of remembrance and helping people, existing people of the armed forces, the veterans and their families.
And I was hoping next you could talk a little bit about the Poppy Appeal and Remembrance Day.
Yeah, this is my final bit. I mean, as I said, live on to the memory of the fallen and the future of the living. And one of the big events in our calendar is the launch of the Poppy Appeal. And that time was upon us. And our Poppy Appeal 2016 on the Isle of Sheppey will be launched with a coffee morning this Saturday, the 29th of October at 10 o'clock, with a service at 11 o'clock at the Holy Trinity Church in Sheerness. That's our coffee morning and our service at the Holy Trinity Church this Saturday starting at 10 o'clock. And I just want to say, last year we've increasingly raised more and more monies each year. Last year we raised on the island circa £19,200, and that's a really good show, against the backdrop of Kent, which is about 1.3 million. And I'd just like to obviously take this opportunity to thank all your listeners who made the contribution to the Poppy Appeal, and hopefully we can surpass that this year. And I'm really keeping my fingers crossed we'll break the £20,000 barrier. There's nothing to stop us from doing that. We've got a Poppy Appeal organiser, Julia Austin Williamson, and she'll be getting everything ready now, and all the poppy badge and all the poppies will be coming through, and we'll all be ready for our launch this Saturday, the 29th of October at 10 o'clock at the Holy Trinity Church, and we'll be delighted to see people down there. And you can start putting your money in and getting your poppies from that day. Now, allied to that is we do have a 2-minute silence held each year at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, which marks the end of the First World War. It is a day to remember and honour those who have paid the price for our freedom then and now, and we always do this at the halfway cemetery at the Sacrificial Cross and at the Clock Tower in Sheerness on the 11th of November, which is actually a Friday this year, the 11th of November, and we'll have a 2-minute silence at the Clock Tower and at the halfway cemetery. We'll have and hopefully we'll get a couple of buglers in who will play the last post at those 2-minute silences. And then on the Sunday, Remembrance Sunday, that's actually on the 13th of November 2016, and it is a day for the nation to remember and honour those who have sacrificed themselves to secure and protect our freedom. I'm particularly excited about the weekend because on the Saturday I'm actually going to the Royal Albert Hall to the matinee performance, and you'll see the evening performance on the telly with the members of the royal family who will be there in the evening. But on the 13th, Sunday the 13th of November, we will commence our Remembrance Sunday. If people can get down there for about 10:30, we always start off with the Big Ben sounds at 11 o'clock. We do some marching prior to that. We will make a collection, and there will be a service at the Sheerness Cenotaph. The roads will be closed, and last year, I'm delighted to say, something in the region of about 450 people turned up for that service on the Isle of Sheppey at the Sheerness. We had services going on all over the place. We have some at East Church, there's some going on at Laysdown, but the main one for the Royal British Legion, where we do all the wreath laying, will be at Sheerness. There'll be another one at the same time at Queenborough, so the island will be commemorating it, but the members of the Royal British Legion will be at the Sheerness Cenotaph, and we will be repaying our respect there. And finally, I mean, I know the Royal British Legion supports silences observed during both Remembrance Sunday services and on the 11th of November, Armistice Day itself. And as far as I'm concerned, really, the act of remembrance rightly has a place in and an impact upon our lives, no matter which day of the week it might fall upon. And I'd just like to say thank you very much to all your listeners this evening for listening to me, and hopefully we can reach that £20,000 target and exceed it this year. And I hope you're there to commemorate with me at Remembrance Sunday at the Sheerness Cenotaph, or anywhere else on the island where you normally go. That'll be great. Thank you very much indeed, Daniel.
No, Ian, as always, thank you very much for coming along. That is Ian from the Royal British Legion this evening right here at 95.6 BRFM on the Monday Night Community Show with me, Daniel.